How much rest did you get for PAX?
Our full taper is like probably 6 weeks. So we were at that point we were probably like 1.5 weeks in.
Oh,
I
wow,
would
that's
say,
it.
yeah, not more.
How do you feel unshaved 1.5 weeks in? Are you feeling good or are you feeling heavy in warm-ups?
I feel good. I feel really good.
Really?
And much of that comes from that I don't have a lot of muscle mass. Like I swim fast throughout the season, like very consistently.
Mm,
And yeah, like I felt worse at NCs because you're way more rested. So each race
mhm.
takes more out of you.
Right, right.
At
Mm,
PAX, you're more of a training machine. You can just kind of just fire them off, even though they're a
mm.
second slower, but it feels way more consistent.
That's a good point. I don't think too many people talk about that, actually. That's interesting that the more rest you get, the harder it is to back up sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, especially the backstroke, right? The freestyles were kind of easy. That was fine because I was more used to it also. But just doing 100 back tapered, like I feel for the 200 backstrokers. Like that was, I talked to Bryce after that two back final. I was like, how was that, man? He's like, my last one. Kind of like
Yeah,
that, at least in
yeah,
yards. But it was, that's hard, dude. 100 back is hard.
yeah, yeah. Wow, that's interesting. So, do you come up at all after PAX, or is it just a continuation of coming down?
We come up for like 4 days, maybe.
Okay, so you get a couple of days rest, and then you start to come up a bit, and then you start to come down again.
No rest really. We kind of were in the water the Sunday we got back.
Oh, really?
So yeah, yeah, same day, kind of just like swimming out the travel. Travel always sucks. So we swim out the travel. We get up for like 4 days, just do like a little bit of yardage, but easy and a little bit of pace. And then the sprinters, just like that was really hard for me. I remember last year the taper was like long, right?
Mm,
And Hoff was here last year. He kind of just like comes in, does a couple of 25s and leaves. And I was always like tweaking about, oh, I have to do more, I have to do more, my endurance, blah,
mhm.
blah, blah. And this year I really like trusted Dave with that. And I was like, Dave, like I do what you say in March too, right? And I came in for the last 4 weeks, I came in and like touched the water. I was like, maybe 1,000, like 1,000, 1,500 total,
Are
right?
they kind of handing you a piece of paper, or are they writing it on the board? How are you getting that information of like, this is your limit today?
Board. Marsh will kind of make it up. Marsh was the key contributor to the sprint taper, at least.
Really? Wow. So
Yeah, he comes
Marsh
in.
gets control of the sprint taper.
Oh, yep, 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 yep,
Wow.
all of it. So
Wow.
we come in, he gets the board, doesn't really plan much. He just looks at how we look and how we feel. And then there's, of course, some structure during the week. It's like this day we get up. And something we learned this season was that we would have, at NCs, we would need to show up day one, right? That was really important. Because during PAX, you saw how we were kind of like, we weren't sluggish in the beginning, but we kind of got going towards the end. And
Mm,
we got the job done there, but we knew that at NCs we have to be going from day one. So we made sure that during that time between PAX and NCs, we got up a lot. Like we
mm.
swam fast, like every other day suited.
Wow.
Um, so to really just, get ready for that day one. So you're actually firing and not just like kind of sleepy.
I've heard that about Dave, the every other day thing. So is it kind of like a Monday on, Tuesday off kind of
Yep.
situation, Wednesday on, Thursday off type of situation?
Yep. Exactly like that.
Right. Okay. And that starts before PAX or after PAX?
Somewhat before it's probably only Saturdays and like Wednesdays, and after
Hmm.
is like every other day.
Every other day. So
Yeah.
you know that you're going to get kind of like a 48-hour rest between kind of high intensity
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, and look at like, if you look at ISL swimmers, same thing, right? The further they get into that season, they kind of move faster and faster because they just race and it's routine and they get more fit throughout it. And that was the idea. It was basically like I mean, it's like roughly said is like a 2 week meet between Pac-12s and NCs. It's like you focus on school, you go to school, but the swimming is like OIO warm up on your own, right? You do your race like 75 backs, 50 backs. I did 75 frees, rest 2 minutes, 250s back end free, right? Like just broken races, a bunch of those.
Mm.
And you kind of do a back day, do a free day, and do that every other day. And the day between, the rest day is just like calm swimming and underwater, a lot of hypoxic stuff, which I
Hmm.
loved.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's like basically a 2 week long just meet almost, where we kind of like we put the music on, we get suited, but you get faster and faster. Like we were so fast by the end of that. And then we kind
Mm.
of just like transferred all that energy to first day of NCs, right? So we came out and we are just like, here we are.
That's interesting. A couple of questions came out of that. So one of them is about school. I haven't asked this before, but this is interesting. I know some guys in taper would make adjustments around school. Like they would go from using the stairs to using the elevators, in the last couple of weeks. They would just get very fanatical about their taper. Is there anything, interesting that you would do around school? Some people ride their skateboards and then all of a sudden they're getting the bus, kind of, whatever it is. Is there anything for you?
No, most athletes here have scooters, like the
Mhm.
electric ones. I don't, because I actually like walking a lot. And it's just like people overthink that too. I mean, you can walk up a flight of stairs, you'll be fine, right? You can't do it 10 times a day for 10 days out, right?
Mhm.
But you'll be just fine. I mean, the idea is you get more sleep, you eat the right things, and you hydrate, and you drink a lot of water. Like Marsh was honest about that, especially because it's hot out here.
Mhm.
I was going through like gallons of water with salt in them just to recover, and that did it. It's not so much like can't walk up stairs and whatever not, but the idea is there, right? Dave was really adamant about us, like Saturdays are like you lay in bed and watch Netflix, like actually,
Really, right.
yeah.
In terms of the sleep, I mean, I know you can oversleep too. So like, where's the balance between, you're probably on the run at Cal, in season, you're probably getting maybe 6 hours if you're lucky, but then in taper time, you've got more freedom to kind of get more of that. Where's the balance between getting enough and getting too much?
I couldn't tell you because I never get enough. I'm very light sleeper,
Oh, really?
so I will not get much more than 8 ever.
Mm.
So you'd have to ask someone else, but I don't know. I usually stay very constant throughout the year. I usually sleep 8 hours, and I think it's just like the idea is you basically don't set an alarm for the last
Mm.
week before we left.
Mhm.
So we had a lot of paper workouts last week. It's kind of like get in whenever you want, right? Don't set an alarm. If you wake up at 7, good. If you don't, good, just sleep in. And Dave was a little bit adamant about us getting up in time for like the time change because there's a 3-hour time difference to Atlanta. So, we're not sleeping till 11 every day, of course. And when we did our races, it was like in the morning. But there, it's very dependent on who you are, I think.
That's interesting. I mean, we're 42 minutes in. We haven't really even talked about NCAAs yet, so we probably should get onto that.
Yep.
The time difference is interesting. It was a 10 o'clock start out there, so that's kind of like a 7 a.m. kind of kickoff for you guys.
Yeah.
That's pretty early. Is there anything at all you did to prepare for that?
Yeah. So the race days themselves, when there weren't paper workouts,
Mhm.
we had to get up at a certain time and be there, right? So we would be racing maybe at 9, which means you get up at 6:45. You get there by 7:30, get in the water, get out of the water by 8:30. So that was most of it. But we knew that NC's like the actual racing is like an hour, and it's usually like between 11 and 12. That's right
Mhm.
there where you are. So if we race in Berkeley at like 8 or 9, that's totally fine.
Mhm.
Um, but we knew, of course, NCAA is a morning meet where you have to show up. So that was like the main idea. But we didn't overthink that either. I mean, 3 hours, like we went out 4 days before. It was totally fine.